The Ant-Man films are not exactly what I would call incredible movies, more so fun popcorn flicks. What they lack in well-thought-out scripts, they make up for in being fun, small-scale stories that don't have massive stakes to them. We got to see some neat visuals with the shrinking powers, pretty decent comedy, and all-around good performances. The same can also be said for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Sort of. Because this film is a little bit of an oddball, really, since it's apparently the beginning of Phase 5 of the MCU and the introduction to the next Thanos-level villain threat, Kang, but it's still trying to be an Ant-Man movie. So yeah, it's weird. Also, I'm going to be using clips from Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, since there's really not enough trailer footage for what I'm about to talk about in this video, and also because that show is just really freaking good. Anyways, Quantumania starts with life being pretty damn good for Scott Lang, as he's found success while trying to make up for lost time with his daughter, and has a healthy romance with Hope, while she's being able to spend more time with her mom and dad finally. That is until an accident leads to the whole group being sucked into the quantum realm by Kang, who is trying to escape and needs the help of Ant-Man to do it. The overall plot was okay. It wasn't too complicated, and it was pretty straightforward. I don't have much to say there without spoiling it, but there was a bit of a pacing problem towards the beginning of the film, however, since there's not enough time being given to two separate plots going on, since the group is split up into two separate ones, so there's constant cutting between the two, and it's really awkward, to the point where there really wasn't enough time, at least at the beginning, for there to be breathing room for both of them to make sense, though this issue is fixed as the plot progresses. Although the plot itself may be fine, the biggest issues this film has come in with the characters here. Right off the bat, any new characters introduced here has little to no presence. The film, for some reason, introduces a group of unique looking characters that are rebels fighting against Kang, but yet does nothing with them at all. For a majority of the runtime, we really don't see any of these new characters anywhere, and yet we're supposed to be invested in them to some extent towards the end, but the film really doesn't do anything in order for you to care about them. They're almost off screen the entire film, so they just come off as really cool looking characters who will probably be good merchandise. And that's kinda it. This also goes for the main cast as well, since there really isn't any kind of character growth for them. Really, the only person to have some kind of arc is Scott, who goes from being pretty much just protecting himself and the people he cares about, to helping those beyond his family who need help, which I think was a solid arc for him to have. I thought it fit well, but like I said, no one else has an arc, which really makes them pretty stale throughout the film. The closest character to having an arc in the film would be Cassie, but she really goes from just wanting to help people to then helping people. It's just really odd and not well thought out. And then everyone else just is window dressing. They have very little to do, and I don't think they stand out that much at all. Though I will say the character that did stand out besides Ant-Man is the villain Kang. Jonathan Majors gave a damn good performance as the character. I was looking forward to his MCU debut for a long time. I was introduced to him as a kid when he showed up in the Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes show, and I thought he was the coolest villain next to Ultron. So for him to finally have a live-action debut just made the inner child in me scream. However, just because the performance was good doesn't mean he was handled entirely well, but I'll get more into that in spoilers. The other villain here, MODOK, was honestly more cringy than anything else. I mean, good God, I get that he's inherently a stupid character, but the movie takes that to another level. It makes him insanely idiotic. Any interactions he has with any characters are just blown off as a joke. Nobody takes him seriously, and he's made even worse by being the worst visual effect in the film. It was pretty dreadful. And that goes for all of the CGI here, because it is one hell of a mixed bag. Because some of the effects are actually really cool. The quantum realm is a really unique place with a really unique look, so alien creatures and the environment and how everything works and stuff looks good. It's nicely polished. The problem though is that the actual real actors are not always composed well into the shots, so they feel really disconnected from everything. But yet insane parts like this one from the trailers are visually interesting and well done. So the film isn't entirely ugly looking, but it's yet another sign that the MCU is not giving enough time to the visual effects artists who are being overworked as fuck. Now I'm going to be talking about the spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, just skip ahead to the time code right here so you can just get to the final score. Anyways, Let us continue. So even though I said the overall plot was okay, there were at least two noticeable issues I had with it. Firstly, this one might be a weird one, but it was a little odd to me that during the last act, the ants that came to help, that also came to the quantum realm when everything was happening in the beginning and were separated from the group, were apparently down there longer before anyone else got there. Basically, how time works much differently in the quantum realm than in the real world. They happened to be at the exact same place that Scott and the group were going to be when Kang was going after them and stuff, but that doesn't really matter as much. So besides knowing that information to begin with, how the hell did the ants even age as rapidly as they did to the point where they were able to create their own civilization? I mean, when Janet was stuck down there in the quantum realm, she aged like a normal person would, but then Kang looks as if he hasn't aged a day, and once the group leave, it's as if no time has passed for them whatsoever, compared to Scott being trapped in there for only 5 minutes, which equated to 5 years in regular world time in Endgame. What I'm trying to get at is that there really aren't any set rules for the quantum realm in general, which makes it really difficult to understand why certain things are happening when we were told other rules in previous films. On top of the fact that the ant civilization that helped the group were also surprisingly powerful enough to take down most of Kang's forces and Kang himself, which makes you wonder why the hell they didn't take him down beforehand, especially when there's been no other group that's been able to stop him. But the biggest issue with the plot that I have is the fact that none of it would have ever happened if Janet had just told everyone what the hell was in the quantum realm. Because if she had just straight up told everyone that there was a time-traveling warlord down there, then I don't think anyone would have thought about doing anything in there. And then Janet uses the really stupid excuse of, I just wanted to protect everyone by not telling anyone anything. And throughout the film, she refuses to talk about what the hell is going on, and it's just really infuriating to watch. It really just feels contrived as hell, because there was literally no reason whatsoever for her to not tell everyone, hey, do not go to the quantum realm because Kang is there. Another big issue I had was with Kang himself, and how he was a bit more of a pushover in the film than anything else. Sort of. I mean, I overall thought he was a good villain, and I loved Major's performance as him, but the writing nerfed him throughout the film. We see some of his insane abilities like freezing people in place, using the Force and lasers that instantly vaporize people, yet he gets his ass handed to him by a bunch of ants that he could have seemingly decimated, but then doesn't use those abilities to do that. Kang is built up as this insanely powerful and scary threat who has defeated Avengers in multiple timelines, but then gets his ass kicked by a bunch of ants and MODOK. That is not how you build up a villain. You don't build them up only for them to get their asses kicked. Thanos may have been a scary dude sitting in a chair, but when his movie came along, he made one hell of an entrance. So for this to be Kang's movie debut, he was kind of a letdown, sort of not, but I don't know. It's just that Kang talked a lot of game and then they didn't go through with it. Hopefully, when he makes his comeback in future films, they'll do their damnedest to make him a massive threat rather than a massive joke. The last issue I have is with the humor, and unfortunately, yeah, this is yet another Marvel film afflicted with unnecessary humor syndrome. While I think that the previous Ant-Man films had a lot of comedy and, yeah, overall deflated most of the tension, those films weren't trying to be anything more than campy, schlocky superhero fun. Quantumania, on the other hand, is trying to be like a grand epic Avengers-style thing, which clashes with the goofy Ant-Man stuff, which is still here. So although there was a lot of comedy that worked, there were quite a few moments that just get in the way of what are supposed to be serious or even heartfelt moments. Like, time and time again, I hope and freaking pray that the films will drop the incessant need to be humorous. But I honestly don't think they'll ever give up at this point. Like, they're too far deep. But beyond all that, the film's clashing ideals are what I would say hurt it the most. The Ant-Man films were overall fun underdog stories that weren't that important to the overall MCU, but Quantumania was promising to be much more than those ones ever could, but never truly delivered on those expectations that we all had. The film at the end of the day was trying to balance the fun goofiness of those previous Ant-Man films and the grand scale adventures of the Avengers movies, and those two sides clash hard, and unfortunately hurt the film in my opinion. Overall, Quantumania is not an amazing film, with underdeveloped characters, a conflict that could have been easily avoided, and very hit or miss comedy and CGI. while also at the same time having good performances, a pretty decent villain, alright jokes here and there, and still being creative with a lot of the visuals. The film may not be one of the worst MCU films with the likes of Thor: The Dark World, but it isn't exactly one of the better ones, and it's certainly a pretty weak start to Phase 5. So for me, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania gets nothing better than a 6 out of 10.